Hi there, welcome to the another video of our course, that is C programming. And here in this video we are going to discuss about the loops. So loop is the one of the most important concepts of programming, and without loop we can do nothing. So here in this video we are going to discuss the concepts of loops in detail. So loops in programming come into use when we need to repeatedly execute a block of statement. For example, suppose we want to perform some tasks again and again, then we need to use loop. So, for example, consider you want to print hello world for 10 times. This can be done in two ways. First, without using loop, we can also print this hello world for 10 times. So this is how we can print hello world for 10 times without using loops. So to print hello world for 10 times, we need to write this print statement 10 times. But what if we want to print hello world for 1000 times? So it is impossible for us to write this type of print statement for 100 times. So if we want to perform some tasks, or if we want to execute block of code repeatedly, then we can use the loop. So we can print this hello world using loop like this. So first we need to include file, and this is our main function, and this is the variable that we are declaring I, or I is the variables that we are going to use in our loop. So using this for loop, we can print the hello statement for 10 times. So now in this video, we are going to discuss the different types of loop available in C programming. So in C programming, we have mainly three types of loop, that is for loop, while loop, and do while loop. And these loops are divided into two categories. First one is entry controlled, and second one is exit control. In entry control, we have two types of loop, that is for loop and while loop. In exit control, we have one type of loop, that is do while loop. In entry controlled loop, first we check the condition or initialization part. First we check the condition, then we execute the body of that loop. Here in for loop we are checking the condition first. Similarly in while loop we are checking the condition at the beginning of loop. That's why it's called entry control loop. We are checking the condition at the entry point, and in do while loop we are checking the condition at the last. So this do while is an exit control loop, because we are checking the condition at the exit point. So the loops are divided into two categories, entry control loop and exit controlled loop. In entry control loop, we first check the condition, and in exit control loop, we at the end of the statement, we will check the condition. So here in this video, we are going to learn the for loop in details. So the syntax of for loop are as follows. We can declare for loop using this for keyword, and inside this bracket we have three parts of for loop. First one is initialization part, where we need to do the initialization of variable, and here in condition part we need to check the condition, and upon this condition our loop will execute or terminate. And this is the updation or increment or decrement of variable can be done in this updation part. So the for loop have three part. First one is initialization, where we do the initialization of variable. In condition we check the condition, and depending upon this condition our loop will execute or exit from the body. Or third part is the updation part, where we do the updation of variable, and after that we have the body of the loop, and inside this body of the loop we need to write the statement that we want to perform repeatedly. So this is how we can declare the for loop. So here we are going to see an example of for loop. In this example we are going to see how to print number 0 to 9 using loop. So first we need to include this stdio.h file, header file. Then this is our main function, and this is the starting of our main function. And here we are declaring a variable I that we are going to use in our loop. So here this is our for loop declaration. Here we have initializing the value of I equals to 0, and here we are checking the condition I is less than 10, and here we are updating the value of I plus 1. So this I plus plus is used to update the value of I by 1, and this is our body of loop, and here inside this body of loop we are simply printing the value of I here. So this is the end of our body of loop, and this, so this loop will execute in total 0 to 9. So this print statement will be execute total 10 times, that is 0 to 9, total number of time, that is 10 times. So this is how we can use loop. So I am going to explain this example and how the loop and how the value of I will be updated in each iteration. So here I am defining the iteration, means the number of time the loop will execute, and how the value of I will be changed in each iteration. Here I am showing. So here I is first, in first time, in first iteration the value of I equals to 1, and here it check 1 is less than 10, then condition became true, then the print statement print the value of I equals to 1. Now the value of I will be updated by this I plus plus, and the new value of I became 2, and its check 2 is less than 10. So condition became true, and it will print the value of I became 2, and it will print the value 2. Now again this I plus plus update the value of I by 1. So new value of I became 3, and 3 is less than 10. The condition satisfied, and it print the value 3 for in third iteration. Similarly, this is how the loop print the value up to 9 iteration. In 9 iteration the value of I became 9, 9 is less than 10, condition satisfied, and it will print the value 9 here. And after 9th iteration, in 10th iteration the value of I became 10, and here we are checking the 10 is less than 10, the condition became false, 10 is not less than 10. So our loop will exit, or this is how our loop works. Now we are going to see the nested of loop. So nested of loops means loop within loop. So this is our first loop, and inside this first loop we have another loop. So the loop inside loop is known as nested of loop. So here we are going to see how to use nested of loops. So for example, here we have this file, and here we are declaring two variables I and j because we are using two loops. And this is our first loop. Here we are initializing the value of I equals to 0, and we are checking the condition I is less than 10, I plus plus. So this first loop will execute 0 to 3, that is total 3 times this first loop will execute. And inside this body of for loop we have another loop, and here we are assigning the value of j equals to 0, and j is, and here we are checking the condition j is less than 3 and j plus plus. So this internal for loop will also execute from 0 to 2 in total 3 times, and this is our body of for second for loop. And inside this body of second for loop we are simply printing the value of I and j, and this is the end of this for loop, and this is the end of internal for loop. So this is our example. So here I am going to see how this nested of for loop will execute, or how the value of I and j will update in these two loops. So here, so in this is the value of I and j. So in first iteration value of I became 0 and value of j became 0, because here the value of I equals to 0 and 0 is less than 3. The condition satisfied, and the and our controls enter into this loop. And here we are checking j is less than 0 and 0 is less than 3. So this condition became also true, and we entered into this statement. So we are printing the value of I is 0 and value of j is also 0. So now this control goes to this loop. So control goes to this loop and the value of j became 1 because 0 plus 1 1 and 1 is less than 3. The condition check, condition satisfied, and it will print 0 and 1 because the value of I became 0 because we have still inside this loop only. So the value of I is not updated till now. So we are inside this loop. So value of I became 0 and value of j became 1. So now after that the value of j became 1 plus 1, that is 2. Here we are checking 2 is less than 3. So condition satisfied, then it will print 0 and 2. Here the value of I is 0 because we are still inside this loop. And now the new value of I became j became 2 plus 1, that is 3. So 3 is less than 3. The condition became false. So we can exit from this loop, and now our control goes again to this for loop. So here, so value of I is 0. Now I became I plus plus. So new value of I became 2. So 2 is less than 3. So condition satisfied. Now again we entered into this loop. Again we entered into this loop, and this loop will execute, and again in this loop we are assigning the value j equals to 3. So this loop will execute for 3 times. So the value of I is 1 and initially the value of j is 0, so it will print 1 1 and 1 3 1 2. So now this loop goes again to this, control goes again to this external for loop. Now the value of I became 1 plus 1, that is 2. So condition satisfied, then again control goes to this loop and it will print 3 times like this. So this is how our nested of for loop works. So here in this example our loop will execute for 9 times. So this first loop will execute 3 times, and this internal loop will execute 3 times each. So total 3 into 3. So total 9 times this loop will execute. This outer loop will execute for 3 times, and this is each 3 times. So we need to multiply 3 into 3. So total 9 times this loop will execute. So this is the practice problem for you all. So you are going to print this type of star using loop. So for hint, first we are printing 1, and here we are printing 2 stars, 3 star, 4 and 5. So this is the practice problem. You can solve or you can try to print this type of star or pattern using 2 loops. So thank you for now. See you in next video.